Hello, everybody, and welcome to last day of week 2. Okay, and today we will be taking a look into a few things, right? One of them would be debugging. Okay, other than that, we'll be also revising what we have done till now in this week, right? And this is so because from next week, yes, next week is the week that you all might be excitedly waiting for, right? And you might be excited for the most, and that is from next week, we'll be diving into AR, right? So that is the week where all of this knowledge that you have gained in these 2 weeks will be put to use, right? And you will be supposed to understand AR code. You will be supposed to write AR code, and we will be looking into the AR aspect of things now, because now we have a fair bit of idea about Unity, how Unity works. We have a fair bit of idea about scripting, how scripting works, what are components, what are meshes, what are materials, and whatnot, right? So let's get right into it without wasting more time. And let's do a small recap about what we have done, right? So let's first of all open Unity, and we can simply do that by Unity Hub, right? So I hope you guys are following along and you have been creating the project as I have created, and you are also following the tips that I'm giving you while while in the tutorial, right? So this is our first project. So earlier we were doing things on a pretty messy level, right? We were not organized. We didn't have any folder structure and all because we didn't focus on those things. But then in week 2, I shared about the organizations of structures, how structures should be made for code, for this, folders and stuff, so that our project is looks clean, is clean, and is easier to access, right? So this is the new structure, and this was our old stuff, materials, scripts, scenes, everything in one place, right? But here now we have the main project, and now inside that we have scenes, scripts, materials, and models, right? So first of all, let's do a recap about what we did in the last session. So in the last session, we also looked at a pretty intriguing thing, an intriguing concept, that is ray casting. And before diving into ray casting, we learned about what are rays, right? So a ray is basically an infinitely long line starting from a given point. Absolutely. And then ray casting is a method of casting a ray, throwing a ray, and then getting information on whatever the ray hits, and then doing actions as required. So we recreated some of the stuff mm, by creating a simple sample code where we simply change the color, right, on as well as we also destroyed, that is deleted, removed the objects wherever the ray hit. Okay, so that was all about yesterday's session. So how about today? So today I told you we'll be taking a look at debugging. How will we debug stuff? Okay. Also, we'll be taking about a few nitty-gritty things that shall be useful to us overall in our game development experience or AR development experience, right? Because from next week, as I already told you, we will be starting with AR, right? So let's see what all scripts we have. And in this scene is a rigid body. No, sorry, this is a Ray Basics scene, right? Yeah. And here we have basic scripting. Okay, now let's have a look at that. And while doing these tutorials, I have been giving a few small tips to you guys, so that's to what is the right way of doing things. For example, we did it in the rigid body testing stuff where we actually got to understand, every time getting component is not the right way. We can create variables, use variables to get the component and then save it, right? And so this was the Ray basics script, right? And now let me first dive down into debugging. I guess that would be good, and then we can do a recap about the things that we have done in the last 2 weeks. Then I'll be giving you some homework for this week which you can do, and then from next week, as we all know, we'll be starting with AR, right? So debugging, what is debugging? First of all, what exactly is debugging, right? Debugging is trying to understand where your code is breaking, right? What is going wrong? How to find out if there is an error, how to find out what error it is, where the error is, where the error has happened, and then how to correct it. Okay. So let's see how we can do that. So let's purposefully create an error. We'll start with the most basic errors. And one of them is renaming a script. So here the C was capital and it didn't look right to me. So I just, decapitalize the C and save it. Okay. Now if I go back to Unity, let's see what happens. This will be compiling the script as we have saved the script and made some changes. Then in console, it has not given any error till now. Okay, let's try to play it. So now we're giving some warnings here. Okay. Also, what our script was to press H and it should recast. So we click on the game view and press H and nothing is happening. Why is that so? Although we are not getting any errors, but we the functionality that we have, the desired functionality is not there, right? So why is this happening? So let's take a look at the warnings. The reference script, Ray basic script on the behavior is missing. Okay, it says something to do with the raycast, Ray basic script, right? So let's go to cube and let's go to the component, and here it says script. The associated script cannot be loaded. Please fix any compile error and assign a valid script. Okay, so what exactly has happened? We have a script here. We have a script here. Everything is written here. We have assigned it here, but it says it is not able to find it. Although if we click it, it's referencing this. This is so because we know that the script name and the class name inside the script should be same. And here, although we have it same, but it's case sensitive. So here we have a capital C till now. Let's rename this. Let it reload. Now let's go to cube. Let it assemble things. Let's go to cube first of all. And a good sign would be if you don't get any errors there. Yes, it is loading perfectly. Okay, so we were in play mode itself. So let's click on play again. And let's see. Let's click H. Yep, it is working. So we can see the ray being casted as soon as we press H. Right? So that was an error. Okay, what else can we do? What different kinds of errors can we get? Okay, another kind of error that you would generally get would be you have created some variable, okay, about anything. Maybe like it's a game object of anything, maybe, right? Game, let's name any game object, right? And although we have created it, and then what we do is we try to use it as well. So any game object dot get component, we say, and we say get the transform component, or maybe the, yes, let's say transform at this component, right? Let me get this transform components, and let's just debug this component, or maybe we can say debug.log its position. Okay, so let's see what happens now. We have saved this script. Let's go back to Unity and let's see what happens. So before hitting play, let's run through it. What we have done. So on the cube, there is a script known as race script basic. Here we have just added a game object reference. We have just created a variable and we've said public, and we can reference any game object here. But as of now, we have not referenced anything. And in the start menu, we are saying, in the start function, we are saying, get the transform component and then get its position and then just debug this, just log this. Okay. So let's see what happens. As soon as we hit on play, we get an error. Okay. Let's see what this error is. This says unassigned reference exception. So the variable any game object of Ray basic script has not been assigned. So this is a pretty generic error that you would see most of the times, because we create random variables, we access them, we use them, but we haven't not set its value. As here, we are trying to access the transform component and then its position, but there is nothing, there's no game object, right? So what will it reference? What, whose component will it get? There is no game object, right? So that is why it is saying unassigned reference exception. So this is the type of exception that you get when when things are unassigned. So let's click on play again to get out of the play mode. Let's simply assign this capsule here. Okay, this is a capsule that we have assigned. Its position is 7.390.6.68. Right now, let's click on play. And now it is giving us the position of this capsule, because now we have correctly referenced this. Now there is a game object on which we can actually perform an action to get a component, and then once you've got that component, then get its position, right? So now we don't get any error. Okay, let's go back. And this was one thing. Another thing that happens is maybe multiple times is, when we are using arrays, which you might be using, in some of the use cases. So how to declare an array? So let's say array, let's name it array. Okay, let's first of all type of array. Let's say it's an integer type of array, and its name is int array. Okay, and that's it. And now again in start, what we'll say is log int array, and we'll try to get its first index. Okay, now let's see what happens. So again, we're getting an error, and this is index out of range exception. Index was outside the bound of array. This is also pretty common error that we get. So now what's happening is, although we have created an array, okay, so here we can see the array. If we click on Q, here is the array, but there is nothing inside it. It's empty. And we are trying to say get the first item, like not the first item, it will be the second item, because the indexing of array starts from 0, right? And there is nothing. So that is why it is saying that you are getting out of the range, right? So this is also one of the common errors. And if we add something here, like 2 and some other value, okay, now if we try to get this first element like 0, 1, so first index, now it shall print it out. There shouldn't be any issue, there shouldn't be any error. So it's printing 2. And why is that so? Because now things array has a few items, and now we are not accessing something beyond the item. Okay, so now also what we can do is, we have 3 items as of now, 0, 1, 2. Okay, now even if now we want to get the 5th item, like the 5th index item on the 5th index, still we will get the same error, index out of range. Why is that so? Because there are only 3 elements, and we are going to get the 5th index. Okay, so again it says index out of range exception, right? So this is also one of the errors. Another thing that you sometimes need to do is maybe change the name of your variables. And what we do is, just to rename this, we say, okay, max distance. Let's say, let me change it to maximum distance. I want the variable to be this. Now we save it, we go back, and we click on play. Before, it won't let you play even, because we have already errors. So let's see what are the errors. So here it says the name max distance does not exist, but we just changed this to maximum distance, right? So you can click on it and you can see it is happening. How to find the error wherever it is happening? Well, it says here Ray basic script on line number 26. Also, you can double click on it and shall directly take you to the error line. So here again we can see the smart grid as well. So although we have changed the name here, but you're using it multiple places, right? So either we can do is we can change it every place, copy, and then paste, and then paste, and this should be fine. Okay, but what if you have like 100 references of this very variable in a script, and you want to change it? So how would you change it? So the best way, or the recommended way, which makes sure that you do not miss any variable name changes, right click on this and say rename. And now if you rename it, it will change its name wherever it is being used. Okay, so maximum, see, it is changing wherever I'm writing. So I'm writing only at one place, but wherever it is being used, the name will be changed. Maximum distance, click enter, less, control save, a command save, control S, so command S. Now if you play it, you're good to go, right? We still have an error, and that is because we're trying to still access the 5th index, right, which we don't have. So that those were a few of the random, or the basic errors that you would see the most in your early game dev career. Okay, so these are the few errors, and what else we can have a look at is, so these are the basic errors that you would get. Okay, maybe you would get multiple more errors, but for time being we'll talk about these ones. And I'm sure if you are coding along with me, if you have been actually practicing these stuff while we were doing all these tutorials and I was giving you homework, you might have also faced these errors, right? Some of them. Now you know why those happen and when those happen. So now I also want to talk about a few more things apart from debugging and these errors, because this is the very last session before we start AR. So we need to take a look at a few things. So that is the camera. So although this camera component, this camera game object, Mr. Camera, has been always here, but we haven't actually looked into it, how it works, right? We haven't taken a look at its components, right? So it has a transform component. Yeah, that's everybody has that, even an empty game object. Then this has this camera component. This is what we are concerned with. So let me go through a few of them, right? So this is the background. So here is the background color, maybe, right? If we are using color, because this is a transparency, right? So if you want to use the color, then we can take this, because as of now we are using skybox, right? This gray and white stuff. If we say solid color, then we will be shown whatever color. So now a background of the camera has changed. Still, the scene thing, this stuff already has this background itself, but for the camera, it has changed, right? Because we are changing for the camera, right? Now let's see projection. Okay, so there are two types of projection. One is perspective, which is basically 3D stuff, and one is orthographic, which is 2D stuff. Okay, so in orthographic, you would see that you won't be able to differentiate the distance, right? So it's 2D, so there is no Z. So mm, quite probably like cube is in front. So if we are in 3D, this will be shown bigger. If the cylinder is at the back, this will be smaller. And if cube capsule is even farther away from the camera, then it will be even smaller, right? But that doesn't happen with the orthographic. So as now we can see, like all these are in the same line, but that's not the case, right? It's not the case, right? So as soon as we change it to perspective, now we can see them, like you know, cylinder is small and capsule is even smaller. Okay. So now we have to see field of view. So this is how wide or how a camera can see. So this should be set to the basic, which is 60. Physical camera will give you multiple properties which are actually there in a physical camera, and you can actually set it, right? You have the sensor type, these cameras, exact camera set property. We generally don't use it, right? So other than that, we have a near plane and a far plane. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting concept, and this we shall be using in sometimes like in AR as well. So what you can see here is the camera is positioned here, but there is a trapezium type like thing going on till there, and there's a a square there. So what it says is whatever is inside this very thing, this thing, this like frustrum we say, whatever is inside this will be rendered, and we can change it. Like for far it's 1,000, right? Let me say 10. So now it is only till here. So whatever now is in the view of camera will only be rendered, and that is just one cube. If I go beyond it, uh, then see, as of now I'm in front of the cylinder, but the cylinder is not shown. If I go now, the cylinder is shown, right? Because it's not in the frustum of this, right? So this is the far plane. So this decides that where this, how far this, this plane would be. So this is the far plane. If I increase it, it will go back. If I decrease this, okay. If I decrease this one. So this controls the objects on how far the objects will still be rendered, if they are like how far from the camera. And near plane is what objects will be rendered if they are pretty close to it. So as you see, if you go pretty close, right? So at one point we won't be seeing this cube because we're inside it now, right? So if we increase this near plane, so now whatever is just before this plane, the near plane, that won't be rendered. Now this is not rendered, the cube is not rendered, right? So basically this near plane and far plane control this frustum, and whatever is in this frustum will be rendered for this camera. Okay, so as we can see now, the cube is not rendered, but if we decrease the near plane, then this shall be rendered. Okay, so this is how these things work. Okay, then we have depth, render, and these are all the things that you will need to take care of. Okay, so this was a basic look about the camera. This more or less remains skybox, and generally we don't use all this stuff. Okay, so yeah, now another thing that I want you to take a look at is the lighting. Okay, so although the lighting is here and you might believe that if we change the position of the lighting, then lighting should change. That's not how it works. Okay, because it's a directional light, right? Also, there are multiple types of light: point light, spotlight, area light. Okay, so generally we use directional light. This is the color of the light, and you can see its effect on the cube, right? See, because this type of lighting is throw, that is why this is seen like this, right? Then there's a real time mixed and baked is like it won't happen if you change things, the lighting won't change, right? It's already baked into the scene. This is the intensity, right? And if you increase it, this will be like really bad. Like the intensity of the light, this will be really shiny and really white. Okay, then we have shadows. We have different type of shadow. Okay, so as of now, you cannot see shadows, right? Let me create a plane, and now you shall be able to see shadows. Let me reset it. Okay, so now you see we are able to see shadows on the plane. So these also are controlled by this lighting. So we can have hard shadows. That means, see, when we say hard shadows, they will be like really crisp. Okay, really crisp shadows. If you say soft shadows, they'll be blurry on the edges, right? And this blurriness will increase, like, if we decrease the intensity of the light, right? Also, if we change the rotation, that also impacts from where the lighting is being thrown, and that also changes the shadow, and also the area of the light, area of the objects that is light or that has shadow. Okay, right? See, so these are shadows. Yeah, again, all these things as of now you can ignore them. So these are also a few properties. Okay, so I really wanted that we look at these things because we haven't, although these are the two things that are already present in every new scene that we create, but we haven't got a chance to look at those things. Okay, so that is all from my side. This was a small session because here I wanted to just talk about a few things, just a few errors, as well as a few things that will be really handy that we have not talked about, like camera and lighting. Okay, and now from week 3 we'll be jumping into AR. But here is your homework for week 2 ending, and that is create your own scene where, okay, let me give you some challenging homework, a bit challenging homework. So where you would have to research on your own, learn about a few things on your own, and then implement. Okay, so, and because we yesterday only we learned how to learn, right? So what you have to do is you have to simply create a experience in which there is a plane, right? There is a plane, and wherever you like, if you're moving, okay, let me show you my screen. So on the plane, if there is a plane and if I'm in play mode, okay, first of all, my camera should be viewing this. So easy way of this is going into the scene view, positioning the camera wherever you want it to, and then simply pressing this, selecting the camera, pressing Control Shift F or Command Shift F, right? So that is more or less like it. And in camera, keep this far thingy to 100, okay? So that everything is visible and you're not cutting something up. So here, what I want you is to, whenever you're seeing this plane, I want you to make experience whenever you click anywhere, like click this. So there should be a cube instantiated, like cube should be created here. Okay, a new cube should be pop out here, and exactly at my mouse position it should land on the plane. Again, if I click somewhere else, then again a cube should pop up there. Again, if I click somewhere, again a cube should pop up. Okay, so how do we do things? So first of all, we create a mind map, what we exactly need to do. First of all, create a simple plane, easy peasy. Position the camera, easy peasy. Now, thing is, now we need to learn how can we get this input. We also know how to get the input from the user, but those were keys and buttons, right? Keyboard keys and accesses, right? But so you need to learn how to get this button click. We also learned about this as well, the button clicks, the left click and the right click. But now we need to see how can we convert this button click into a point on this plane, because this button that we're clicking is on this 2D area, right? And we want the cube to instantiate just below this mouse, right? So how that would happen? So I would give you a hint here. So what we need to do is we need to do a ray casting. So what we'll say is, for example, if this is our plane, right? For example, this is our plane. Okay, a camera is here. Okay, this is a camera. This is the screen port, and our mouse is, for example, our mouse is moving here and there and here, and it is just stopping at this point, and we click it. So what should happen is a ray should be casted from this point, and it should be hitting the plane. Wherever it hits the plane, there we should instantiate a cube. I know this might be sound a bit difficult, but this is purely easy, and you have all the skills to do this homework. Okay, so simply I should be able to click, and basically we'll be doing a ray casting from this screen to the point, and we should be getting a point here, and then create a cube there. Okay, also just to help you out, I would also say, you know, how to raycast from camera. So basically it will be camera screen point to ray. Okay, we'll be using this very function. Okay, so what this does is this will create a ray from the camera screen point. So wherever the screen is, it will create a ray from there. And what it takes is it takes a vector 3 position. So what we can do is we can pass the input mouse position here, which will be 2D in axis, and it will raycast, and that if hits the plane, we need to create an object. Okay, so this function would be really useful. Also, to create something is to instantiate something in Unity. Okay, so you can use this instantiate function to create your object. Okay, simply give this instantiate an object, it will create it, and a parent maybe if you want to adjust the position and the rotation, right? So using these two things, you should be able to do it. And I know that you guys are totally capable of doing this, and with all the skills that you have till now, you shall be able to do this. So that's all from my side for week 2, and this is the end of week 2. And soon we will be jumping into A, that is from week 3. I would suggest you all to go through all the sessions maybe in a fast mode and see what you have learned there, and just revise those things, because those will be important when we are doing AI stuff. So that's all from my side. See you guys. Bye bye.